Hey Puzzle Buddies, it's Bree, and welcome to the first episode of Blind Date with a Puzzle. Now, if you're familiar with Book Talk, you've probably seen like Blind Date with a Book, so this is the same sort of concept, just here with puzzles. So here I am with a Ziploc bag full of pieces, and I went ahead and dumped them all out and figured the first thing I ought to do is a full flip. And so I'm starting to flip, and I noticed that it was kind of random. I had a handful with 3 of the corners all at once. So I was like, that's kind of strange that I ended up with 3 corners all in the same spot. And then we end up here. Why are there so many corner pieces? Why are there so many corner pieces? Wait a minute.
It begins.
Yeah, I had like 5 corner pieces, and I said, wait a freaking minute, what is going on? So we keep flipping. I keep kind of collecting these little corner pieces, and next thing you know, I have 16 corners. I'm sorry? Why are there 16 corner pieces? This is not what I asked for. So clearly, this was 4 like individual puzzles in one bag. So I gave my husband very little instructions, which may have been a mistake. But basically, I just asked him to get me a puzzle that was somewhere between 300 and 500 pieces. I know nothing about what brand it is, how many pieces this puzzle actually is, nor what the final image is supposed to be. And I just have to go into this completely blind. So as I'm working on this thing, I can kind of tell it's a Ravensburger because all the pieces had blue backing. And I'm pretty sure Ravensburger is the only brand that does that. And then I could see that it was Lilo and Stitch. So I did know that as I was getting into it. So I started off by pulling out the edges because especially with there being 4 different puzzles, I definitely needed the edges to try to have some sort of guideline to what in the world I was about to be doing. The first ones that I started with are the ones with like the yellow, red, and purple kind of like lines and things on them, because those are kind of easy to pull out. So I'm getting little pieces of this and that together. There were some pieces that were like little miniature stitches that some had like a yellow line, a purple line, and a red line. I figured all those had to go together. And then the rest of them, I couldn't really tell like what belonged with what, so I was just kind of piecing it like just one piece at a time. And as I'm trying to familiarize myself with the pieces as I'm working on the edge, I'm trying to figure out if I can tell what each of the like final images is. Some of them I could kind of start to see what was happening, but other ones I'm like, what is going on here? I'm making progress. I finally got one almost completely filled in, which felt pretty good. Well, not filled in, but like the edges all done. Which also helped me to realize about how big all of these were supposed to be. And as I'm realizing that, I'm like, okay, I do not have enough space on this board for all of these puzzles and all these loose pieces. So I went ahead and took out my puzzle boards and I separated out the pieces as best as I could. So I had one board that had Lilo pieces and pieces that seemed to be just like some sort of background. I had one board dedicated to Stitch because, child, there was a lot of Stitch. And then my last board was Scrump and Angel. So I got those sorted out pretty well, and then I went back to working on the edges. I also was pulling out any like extra edge pieces that were left in my kind of like sorting piles. And then also it's kind of easy to pull out some of those like faded stitch images because I knew that they had to go to this one puzzle on the bottom left. Yeah, bottom left. I got through with that top left border, and then I was finishing up those other borders. I got all the borders done, at least for the most part. I'm missing like one piece, but got them done, and then I just started to go one board at a time, trying to put in as much as I could. So I started off with my smallest pile, which was the scrump pieces. And then after that, I moved on to Angel, and there weren't a lot of Angel pieces, so I was able to get her mostly pulled out. And then this bottom left one was giving me trouble because I couldn't figure out like which way her face was supposed to go, so that one tripped me up. And then after that, I moved on to the Lilo pieces. The Lilos were kind of attached to the border enough that I could figure out which Lilo piece went where. And then even if it wasn't necessarily attached to the border, there was enough going on in the background of the Lilo pieces that I could kind of figure out where they went. After that, I moved on to the like more background-ish pieces. Honestly, I was just trying to avoid Stitch because I didn't know where to start with all those Stitch pieces. And then I couldn't tell that pink and purple thing at the bottom right. At first I thought it was like a pair of roller skates. I couldn't tell what it was, and then finally I realized it's a bicycle, or like a tricycle. Pretty much all that was left at this point was the giant tray of Stitch. So I started off just kind of like piecing, like pulling out pieces as I saw them and trying to fit them in where I could. And then I would kind of give up and I would kind of go back to the background pieces because I still had a few left. And then once I mostly got through the background and there was really only Stitch left, I just had to buckle down. And so as you can tell at this point, I've got 3 of the 4 images like mostly figured out. I can pretty much tell what's going on and what the final image at least generally is supposed to be. But that top left one, I literally had no clue. No clue, no idea. Finally, around here is where I noticed that the bottom edge of that top left puzzle has a bit of like this white and purple line going across some of the pieces, and then some of the pieces in the Stitch pile did have some of that white and purple background to it. So I was like, okay, so this collage of stitches is forming some sort of frame around something else. I don't know how to explain it, but I could tell that this wasn't forming a rectangle, and it was really throwing me off. So I got in as much as I could, then I kind of just moved on. I went back to those remaining background pieces and tried to fill in some more of those. And then at this point, there was nothing left really to do but to piece sort. I just went ahead and piece sorted all of those Stitch pieces and those like 2 or 3 background pieces I had left because they're like, what else was I going to do? Truly, what else was I going to do? Once I piece sorted, the 3 of the 4 puzzles was pretty easy to get done. Once all of those puzzles were done, the only thing left was that top left puzzle with the collage of stitches and whatever is supposed to be in the middle. While this was stressing me out at some points, honestly, I really like these puzzles. I really love Lilo and Stitch. I actually remember going to see that movie in theaters when I was a kid. In fact, hold on. Okay, the Lilo and Stitch movie released June 2020. No, not 2020. June 2002, which means I was like 5 going on 6, and my little sister was like a year and some change old. And I remember being in that theater. My mom was holding my sister. My sister was like asleep the whole time. And I just remember thinking like, how could she be asleep through this like masterpiece of cinema? Like, like this is like the best movie ever. How could she possibly be asleep right now? Mind you, Lilo was calling all the other experiments Stitch's cousins. And Angel, who is the pink experiment, who's also featured in this puzzle. Angel and Stitch are like boyfriend and girlfriend in the show, in the series. That's why they're like all hugged up on each other, even in the puzzle. Aren't they cousins? Or are we using cousin very loosely? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking a little bit too hard. Anywho's, I got the last piece in and I was done with all 4 of these puzzles. Now, it was a good time. The pieces were good quality. The image was really nice. You can see it's nice and vibrant. You can see all the details. It looks really good. It was just a struggle to put together when I had no clue what it was that I was doing. And I was right. It was a Ravensburger. Well, 4 Ravensburgers. In fact, this is the bumper puzzle pack. I actually don't know why it's called that, but that's what's on the box. It's the Stitch bumper puzzle pack. All in all, I wasn't like timing myself per se, but this one took me about 3 hours, which for 4 100-piece puzzles, that is a long time. But for 4 100-piece puzzles mixed together in one bag and you don't know what you're looking at, I feel like that's a reasonable amount of time. So y'all let me know, should I keep letting this man set me up on these blind dates? Or should I no longer trust him with that much power? Y'all let me know, and I'll see you in the next one.